Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at today's webinar. Today we present to you the tourism seminars entitled Tourism Recovery and Development, Responsibility, Sustainability and Value Creations. This event organized by the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism Management, UCSI University. We have various experts presenting today, and they come from Philippines, Thailand, Japan, Canada, Bulgaria, and Malaysia. We have participants from more than 30 countries. Wow. My name is Ida Nainko, and I am a lecturer at the Department of Tourism and Commerce, UCSI University Sarawak campus, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. This webinar will be about 2 hours long. Each expert speaker is given 12 to 15 minutes. There will be 6 areas in tourism which will be covered by each of them. Event tourism, wellness and leisure tourism, community-based tourism, ecology tourism, smart tourism, and responsible tourism. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentations, please type them into the chat room. I will bring selected questions up later during the Q&A sessions. All your audios will be muted. This seminar is also live streamed at Facebook. The Facebook link provided in the chat room, please feel free to share them with your friends, yeah? And don't forget to like our Facebook page as well. You may also find the details on today's videos, slides, and certificates in the chat room. All right, let's get started with the welcoming remarks by UCSI University Sarawak Chief Operating Officer, Madam Movinder Sandhu. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you, Ida. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Madam.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining the UCSI International Tourism Seminar. We are absolutely thrilled and encouraged to see the response today. As Ida just said, we have participants from more than 30 countries. Just marvelous. Ladies and gentlemen, this seminar is organized by the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism Management, the Sarawak campus of UCSI University, in partnership with the Sarawak Tourism Board, Malaysia, RCE Kuching, or Regional Center of Expertise, Kuching, Malaysia, University Technology Mara, or UITM, Sabah Branch, Malaysia, the Sarawak Research Society, Malaysia, Emerald Publishing in East Asia, the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, as well as Mingchuan University, Taiwan. Now, a bit about UCSI University. It is a leading Malaysian institution of higher learning, which has been ranked at 391 in the recent QS World University Rankings, placing us in the top 1.3% of all universities in the world. The university has 3 campuses across Malaysia. One of them, the Sarawak campus, is located in Sarawak on the island of Borneo, which is the 3rd largest island in the world, known for its rich biodiversity and unique natural heritage. We like to describe Sarawak to the world as a place where adventure lives. Like no other place on earth, it's filled with the friendliest people, people of different races, religions, and cultures, where you arrive as a guest and really live as family. Now, a bit about the Sarawak campus of the university. It houses the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism Management, Faculty of Business and Management, and Center for Pre-U Studies. One of the notable achievements of the campus when it was acknowledged as a Regional Center of Expertise Kuching, or RCE Kuching here in Sarawak, by the United Nations University in 2018. And now what RCE Kuching does is it aims to realize global objectives such as the SDGs in the local context by engaging with all sectors of society, especially the youth, to raise the sustainability literacy of the rural and urban communities of Kuching through various education for sustainable development initiatives. Now, in keeping with the current circumstances, today's UCSI International Tourism Seminar is organized to provide insights into tourism recovery and development in the various aspects of tourism, from both the academics and practitioners' points of view. In line indeed with our continuous efforts to combine knowledge and practice. You will hear about how event tourism, wellness and leisure tourism, community-based tourism, ecology tourism, smart tourism, and of course, responsible tourism can shift the industry to greater heights and frame the future of tourism. Without a doubt, the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on travel and tourism will most likely come up too. So today you will hear from our distinguished speakers and their thoughts on these aspects of tourism, not to mention, of course, as we pay attention on these and on revving things up to address the pent-up demand or appetite of tourists post the pandemic, can we reset the part on responsible tourism? Is this our chance to reopen tourism or restart tourism in a safe and responsible way? Of course, special thanks goes to the expert speakers for your support in today's seminar. You will hear it from Professor Dr. Karen Fernandez, who is the Vice President, Education and Accreditation of APIM, or Asia Pacific Institute for Events Management, Philippines. She's also the President of APIM, Events Management Services. And then you will also hear it from Associate Professor Dr. Anne Swari Ashton, Associate Dean of the Graduation School of Tourism Management, National Institute of Development Administration, Thailand. Professor Dr. Joseph Cheer, he is a professor at the Center for Tourism Research, Wakayama University, Japan. And then Ms. Jamina Hu, she is the CEO and founder of the Ecotourism Foundation of Canada. Professor Dr. Stanislav Ivanov, Professor and Vice Rector of Research from Varna University of Management, Bulgaria. He's also the CEO of a consulting company at Zangador Limited. And last but not least, you will also hear from Madam Shahzed Datu Haji Saleh Askor. She is the CEO of the Sarawak Tourism Board, Sarawak, Malaysia. So I won't hold you any longer. Once again, thank you very much to all the participants, the organizing committee, led by Associate Professor Dr. Hiram at the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism Management. We are honored and humbled by the support given by everyone here today. It is certainly our wish that you will find this seminar informative and thought-provoking even. Thanks. Back to you, Ida.
Thank you, Madam Movinder. All right, we will now begin with the presentation from each speaker. Each speaker will be given 12 minutes. Dear honorable speakers, I will notify you with a paper signal to notify you of your remaining time. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to our speakers. Our first speaker today is Prof. Dr. Karen Fernandez from Philippines to highlight on the topic, Event Tourism Strategic Recovery Plan. Over to you, Prof. Karen.
Good morning from the Philippines.
Morning.
First of all, thank you very much to UCSI University Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism Management for this opportunity. So the unprecedented changes brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic are dramatically affecting tourism. So the new normal for physical events will entail thorough safety measures. So it's important to prepare accordingly. So the Asia Pacific Institute for Events Management have developed a strategic recovery plan to help the industry navigate the immediate future of events. But before I proceed to my main topic, allow me to introduce our organization, the Asia Pacific Institute for Events Management, or APM. So it is a professional organization established with the aim of professionalizing the Asia Pacific event industry. So APM is able to work with colleges and universities to design and develop courses in events management. So for this reason, we recently launched the APM Academy to offer 3 certified courses for event industry. Next slide, please. So the APM Certified Event Planner, the APM Certified Event Manager, and the APM Certified Event Educator. So these courses are 100% online and can be studied 24/7, 365 days per year from anywhere in the world. So to celebrate the 5th founding anniversary of APM, we're offering 50% scholarship to those who will enroll from August 10 to September 13. So for more details, please visit our website at www.apm-ems.com/academy. So next slide, please. So in this figure, event studies, event management, and event tourism are defined as event studies as an interdisciplinary field that studies all planned events, encompassing event management and event tourism. Event management, on the other hand, is the process by which an event is planned, prepared, produced, and evaluated. While event tourism is simply defined as holding of events as tourist attractions. So whether to create a favorable image, to expand traditional tourism season, to spread tourism demand evenly, or even to attract domestic and foreign visitors. Slide, please. So event tourism and tourism in general has been the worst affected of all major economic sectors due to the worldwide outbreak of COVID-19. So according to the Secretary General of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, the restart of tourism means the return of hope and opportunity for many millions of people around the world. Next slide. So UNWTO calls on governments, international organizations, and donor agencies to include tourism as a priority in recovery plans and actions, particularly for financial and political support for recovery measures aimed at tourism and include support for the sector in the wider recovery plans and actions of affected economies, as well as political and financial commitments, which are key to ensure that tourism can lead wider economic and social recovery. As the UN agency responsible for tourism and sustainable development, so UNWTO stands ready to provide guidance and support for recovery measures of its members, the private and public tourism sectors, including organizers of tourism events and affairs. So every crisis has different phases. So every crisis situation is context specific, including skill, nature, extent, time frame, affected sectors, and stage of the event. So the first phase of crisis is the pre-event and predictive, which is no indication as yet of the impending crisis, but time to be prepared and have crisis management plan in place in the eventuality that an incident will occur. Next phase is the prodromal or early symptoms. So in most cases, early warning signs are evident but are ignored or misinterpreted. So screening of media outlets can identify early warning signs. Now is the time to prepare, update plans, and activate them, update training, and prepare to respond. The next phase is emergency, which is the key role of thumb, does not make it worse. The safety of guests and staff is critical. Accurate and effective communications are important. Strategies and actions to protect the business need to be implemented. Its employees and the community it operates must be considered. Next is crisis continuity. The crisis is ongoing. So what are the short-term solutions that can be implemented? Care for staff and clients is essential. Monitor the situation to see that the longer-term implications and or predicted duration will be. Prepare resilience plans. Next is the recovery. In this phase, we have to establish recovery objectives and timelines, stratify and prioritize target markets, work with intermediaries and the public, be positive and honest in communication, implement plans, treat media, including social media as an ally, and demonstrate appreciation to others. So I'll be focusing the next slides on the recovery phase since we're still very far from the resolution phase. Where in the resolution phase, we have to identify what actions to take to recover as quickly as possible. So what lessons have been learned? Are you prepared for the next crisis? Rapid recovery often occurs after an event. So a range of actions can be undertaken during the event. So importantly, it must be appreciated that consumer confidence has been damaged and will not return until the event passes. So these are some of the strategic actions that we want to emphasize. First, step back and plan for the relaunch. Evaluate the position and develop plans at the destination, corporate or property level. Sharpen market research to identify strong segments likely to recover first. New markets or new segments in existing markets that can be actualized. We can develop a new branding strategy as the old one may be tarnished by the crisis. And we can also look at ways of diversifying the market post-recovery if overly reliant on one source. And lastly, work closely with industry to develop a series of packages that can be launched at short notice. So packages can include special rates for airfare, accommodation, food and beverage, etc. Next. So forward book through vouchers, coupons to keep some cash flowing into businesses. We can also arrange mutually beneficial terms and conditions with suppliers and take this opportunity to restructure and open new avenues for business as well. While price cuts can deliver a brief spike in volume, they can also result in long-term pain for any business that pursues this strategy and renegotiate contracts with intermediaries like online travel agents. Next, please. So recovery plans can begin during the event, but must be implemented effectively post-event. So what can we as academics do? First, we can volunteer our services as money is very limited during this time of pandemic. So work collaboratively with others. Now is the time to cooperate. We can also provide targeted research backup, including to inform policy changes, and share our collective research with destination management organizations and industry. And we can also promote a different way to conduct tourism. Next. So in terms of policy, we can rebuild the trust in a concerted and cooperative effort involving government, destination management organizations, and industry. We can also reconsider the balance between volume and quality of target markets for tourists, develop system-wide recovery strategies. We can also develop system-wide crisis strategies, identify and focus on sustainable competitive advantages. We can also communicate the benefits of tourism to the local community and mitigate a tendency to tourist phobia and racism involving tourists from certain regions. In terms of sustainability, we can promote more sustainable actions and be humble and appreciate that the commercial tourism sector is a facilitator of experiences and not the experience itself. And tourism can be a regenerative industry locally, nationally, internationally, and encourage relevant policy development. In terms of marketing, first, we can relaunch a destination or the product. We can launch packages and promotional specials that have been developed during the event. Progressive market expansion, aiming at cured markets first and then expanding to more markets. We can target loyal markets, work on localized sector. We can also focus initially on domestic and nearby international markets. And social network, we can of course promote our destination through social networking via Instagram, Facebook, or with definitely with good news stories, and focus on business travel. Okay, so we can also follow the PATAS or Pacific Asia Tourism Association's 9-step marketing and communication process. The first step is get the prime message out. So we can actually put signage that we are open for business or tourists are welcome and wanted. The step 2 would be setting out the facts. So our destinations like hotel, tour, attraction, flights are operating, outline restrictions and limitations. Step 3 would be complementary alliances with principals. So we can have joint arrangements with hotels, resorts, restaurants, attractions, land tours and airlinks, and value-added arrangements between complementary principals. Step 4 would be restoring confidence in source markets. So travel agents and travel writers, familiarization trips, we can offer that. And then choose opinion-led leaders. And then step 5, protecting profitability during marketing recovery. So we can offer incentives which will enable the business to sustain profitability value rather than discount. Step 6, re-image the business and the destination. So we can have a retheme advertising and promotion. Step 7, we can offer incentives with tourist attractions. Step 8, publicize the positives. And lastly, reporting and monitoring progress or publicize the changes and enhancements made. Next. So in terms of integration, we can work with transport providers to reduce barriers to entry, coordination with governments at all levels, and reassure the local community. Next. For the community, we can buy goods from local producers, build an online platform to connect local food producers and the industry, encourage BFR to build traffic and link, encourage local residents to visit the local attractions or spots first. Next. So for the consumers, we have to allow the people with antibodies against the coronavirus to travel freely if the issue is still unresolved. Assure the consumers that the destination is safe and remind them of any actions the destination may still be implementing. Explain the sanitation process and build on trust and relationship. So we have to promote sustainability as well, educate tourists not to damage the physical and social environment. We have to emphasize on service quality by offering the true meaning of hospitality. And lastly, be prepared for a strong rebound in demand. So the timing of recovery is going to be dependent on consumers and businesses having confidence that their cities and venues are safe again. So with that, thank you very much for listening. Please send us an email at apm.ems@gmail.com or visit our website at www.apm-ems.com. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Karen, for your inspiring sharing. So today we hear that there are few stages of crisis. Yeah. So strategy and plan are therefore critical in solving any crisis at each point. For example, mentioned by Prof. Karen, strategies, sustainability, marketing, development, society, and as well from the customer perspective. All right. So now let us move on to the next speaker, Prof. Dr. Anne Suwari Ashton, to deliver her topic on wellness and leisure tourism. circumstances, and activities.
Hi, everyone. Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me to share with you about the wellness tourism. And it's a great honor that I can come to share. And I heard that many audience from around the world, actually 30 countries. So I've been there to Sarawak, so I have this picture to show you that I've been around, and then I really impressed with the country. Hopefully that when the COVID-19 opens, so I can get back there again. All right. So today I will cover the topic that nowadays that many people are heading to looking after themselves. So what I will cover, I will talk about the wellness tourism, what it's all about. And I'm talking about the activities type of wellness. And then I show you some of my research that I have done in Thailand. Next slide, please. So maybe you have heard about wellness tourism, or you have heard about health well-being. Maybe you have heard about medical tourism or something like that. So my definition of wellness is about a lifestyle oriented toward optimal health and good feeling, and in which the body and mind and soul. So that, how about the wellness tourism? Wellness tourism is about people who go to travel a journey. Their main goal is achievement of the balance and the harmony of the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and the value of the people. Next slide, please. So that in the wellness or medical tourism, or under the health wellness tourism, it's separate into two ways. One is about health wellness, and another one is about medical tourism. So today I will cover only about the wellness tourism, which is not going into about medical tourism just yet for today, as I have a time limit. So many countries around the world, as you can see from these statistics, we have in the middle, if you see that wellness, tourist and spa, that is one of a majority of people are looking to join, you know, that we have about wellness, lifestyle, you know, we have spiritual, even that, and I will explain later what is spiritual is. And for whom about wellness. Nowadays we have many group of the people are interested. So for example, millennial people, or we have 50 aging group, and then we also have the seniority, which is I have the result of my research to show you later. Next, please. So that we're talking about leisure. Is nowadays people go traveling around, they will go for leisure, and also they're thinking of how can we get to the destination and then be healthy. So this is a concept of the wellness for leisure. So how about the circumstances? Next slide, please. In around the world, you know, wellness tourism, now we have been recognized, and even though UNWTO, and we talking about the impact of health well-being, and then we concern about health more nowadays as a crisis in our life, the stress about food that have bad chemical and so all sort of things. Next, please. Wellness in Thai government nowadays, that as you maybe know that Thailand, we quite well known about the wellness destination, especially you will know very well about spa and about Thai massage. So with the situation of the COVID-19, next slide, please. So our Thailand Tourism Authority that launched the new campaign we call CHA, or it stands for Safety, Security, and Sanitation, which is all the, next slide, please, which is all the service industry, next slides, they have to obtain this certificate. If you can see this in the organization, for example, in the hotel or in the restaurant, in anywhere in Thailand, it is safe for the tourists who will go to use the facility in there. Next, please. So this is all the 10 tourist business, tourism, restaurant, hotel, and transportation agency. spa, health, massage, department store, sport, tourism, activity event, and souvenir shop. Next slide, please. So now I will explain that what is included in the wellness tourism. In my study, I separate this into 5 types. Wellness tourism is about sport. In terms of the sport, it's not about competition, but just for leisure, spa, beauty, healthy food, spiritual mind, and Thai medicine. Next, please. So next one. I will explain about the wellness for sport. In Thailand, we go to travel a lot, and we go to have a long distance running, but it's not for hunting for the prize and the medal, but we go for leisure. We go for a run, and then the next day we can travel around. How about the spa? A spa is during the COVID-19, we're still planning how we will can open the spa again. So I show you about my study. This is study about spa in Thailand. I found that many tourist behavior, for example, the Chinese people, they are age group about 35 to 45. They basically they come as a family, and they are a quality tourists, who come to use a spa. Next slide, please. The next behavior is from England. So these people are basically, they come stay about 7 days, a minimum, and then they use the hotel website for their information. Next one. In America also is a long stay. They stay from 7 days to 30 days. Most of them, they like to do facials, massage, and body massage, and foot massage. Australia people are usually, this is a group of people who retire, and duration to stay also is a long time as well. And the best channel for information for them is they go to the hotel website. The next one is interesting in my result, that Korean. These people are come to Thailand for the honeymoon. More than 80% they come and they use a spa. They like to to go to Samui Island for their wedding, and also the duration to stay is quite short, 3 to 10 days. Amazingly, is in India, behavior of these tourists is they come as a group and age between 25 to 40, and they like to do Thai massage and also to do the spa, 7 days maximum. This is one of my results about tourist behavior and a strategic plan. And this had been just submitted to the Thai government to plan about to develop spa service to be international level. So maybe I will get the audience to read this letter. I think I don't have time to cover that. So now I want to talk about the spiritual retreat tourism. Wellness and spiritual is totally different from religion. Religion is that you go for a special interest and you go for to participate in the religion associated belief and the system. However, next slides. For the spiritual retreat tourism, in my study, we're talking about we go there just for relax. Perhaps maybe we go for meditation for half an hour, and then you maybe have some other activities. So this kind of activity is quite new. But my study, I have the result of my study. Next slide. We have my study is it was found that the people go just because they want to recover, but they don't want to become a nun or a monk. That they say we still want to enjoy life, but we just want to recover. So the people go there for we got next slide, please. Next slides. Yes. Okay. So they go there just because they have enjoyed environments, the service that we give to them, and we need to promote these kind of activities more. In Thailand now, the ability is still need more develop. Next one, please. Next one. And okay, healthy food. In Thailand, we call another under wellness tourism is people go and then they try to have a healthy food. So one of my students doing a research about slow food tourism. So there are 3 concepts. It's good, clean, fair. It means that to produce the maximize of the flavor, and clean is mean, like we need to get organic organic food. And then we have fair. Food fair, it's mean not only fair to customer, but we fair to the supplier. You know, we use local people to supply their raw ingredient. This is in Thailand. We are popular up north of Thailand. And one of my students doing this research, you know, the outcome is they're talking about their perception of slow food and a healthy food, and then they continue to do it at home as well. So next slide, please. And this is one of example in Thailand. North of Thailand, we have slow food tourism. We have the organic market. Of course, it's quite new for Thailand. You know, we have farmer market, but the whole market is all about organic. And the most popular is for those people who have income, good income, until to the upper high income people. So they perceive some of the value. Can you go back a little bit, please? They perceive value about quality. You know, this is my study. They're talking about the uniqueness, and slow food is unique, especially they use a local food to produce the dishes for the tourists. And they don't mind at all to wait too long, you know, to serve. So the last one is Thai traditional medicine. As you all know that in Thailand, we're very, very famous for the massage. And then everyone come to Thailand, want to do Thai massage, want to do enjoy the spa. We have our own unique. My research said that Thai massage is very unique. No one can replace that. So I think one of the things that we can say about that. I give you another example about wellness. Now is a trend of the people who age above 50, and then they travel for wellness. This is my result. Can you go next slide, please? So what is active aging group mean? Active aging group mean the person who's still working, but they are already have emptiness, perhaps. They have ability to travel around, they have money. So this market is become very, very significant trend. As you see that behavior, this is my study for my research project, talking about the 50 age group. So they usually they travel 39% is 7 to 14 days. And we have a lot of Thai tourists because during that time, you know that this is the last slide. This is I want to analyze about potential wellness tourism in Sarawak and in Thailand. So next, please. We have the same resources, you know, in terms of the sport activities. You can do your activities. As I heard that you have marathon at Sarawak as well, and also you have organized, you know, like Thailand we have a lot, but now we have to stop for a while. Next slide. Spa and beauty. So I think the resources we are in Sarawak, you have potential to develop this to be a destination for the spa. And I'm not sure about spiritual retreat tourism. In Thailand, we are Buddhists, and then we have so many places, but we still in the process of develop that, because spiritual retreat tourism in my study, we are organized in the temple, and the stakeholders still don't really know what it's all about. And I think in Sarawak maybe the same. So another one is about healthy foods. And I've been to Sarawak as well. I think the potential of develop healthy food in Sarawak, we have a lot of room to improve that, including Thailand. So I think one of the things that in Sarawak can develop tourism and wellness. And the last one, Thai traditional medicine. And also I think in Sarawak, you also have potential about traditional medicine. So this is for my analyze, you know, about the future research and about the how can we develop wellness tourism for leisure for a better. So this is some of the future area that we need to maybe talk together after COVID-19. First thing that we need to improve information technology. We're talking about online marketing strategy, and we're talking about safety, you know, sanitizing, a new way or propose the product and services. And also we need to get into the tourism behavior after COVID-19. So I think pretty much in my presentation today. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to send me the question if you may have. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Prof. Ann, for sharing with us outcome of your studies on type of tourist behavior from various countries towards tourism and wellness products, as well as the differences between spiritual tourism and leisure tourism, and few other interesting research outcomes with us today. And of course, the highlights of Sarawak as potential in wellness tourism. Thank you. All right, our third speaker today is Prof. Dr. Joseph Cheers from Japan to highlight on the topic community-based tourism, community resilience perspective.
Thank you, Ida. Hi, everyone. Firstly, some acknowledgements. Thank you to Ida and Adeline for organizing me, to Professor Hiram Ting for inviting me in the first place, and to Madam Sandhu for hosting this, and to the distinguished speakers as well. I've got a bit to cover, so I'm going to keep my introduction brief. I've already had an introduction, but if you'd like to contact me, if you have any questions later on, there's my email address and there's my Twitter handle as well. So to begin with, as Ida said, my presentation is on community-based tourism, but it's such a large area to discuss. You know, I taught a course on it for a whole semester. So to talk about this in 12 minutes requires me to be very brief. So I'll focus on this idea of community resilience. And most of you in the shadow of COVID-19, the term resilience has come up quite a bit. But to a large extent, the term is misused and abused for political gain often, and for public relations purposes. If you can go to the photograph on the next slide, one of the things, I put this up because this is a photograph that was taken after a disaster in Louisiana in the US. And this idea of resilience often comes up as a policy measure. And the idea of resilience is to be able to adapt to changing circumstances, right? But one of the things we realize as scholars and as practitioners is that, you know, very often communities have a limit to the extent to which they can be resilient. And sometimes policies and procedures that go on breach the thresholds of resilience. But if we were to talk about community-based tourism, there are often some very general understandings. Very often when we talk about community-based tourism, the essence is about the community itself and that they are the beneficiaries. But also there's an argument that often communities aren't the best people to manage tourism for themselves. On the other hand, we find that community-based tourism is often something that's driven from outside, where the beneficiaries of tourism lay outside. So to define community-based tourism is very difficult because there are many definitions, but in essence, it's about the local community and how they are the focus of tourism development as producers, managers, and beneficiaries. Also, in community-based tourism, we infer that the nature and scope of tourism means that they are in charge, that they are make decisions regarding themselves. In tourism studies, we have three systems that we look at. You know, we look at this in a systems perspective: the attraction system itself, the economic system, which tourism is a part of, and the community system, which I will focus on. If these were a Venn diagram, there is much overlap between all three of these. So if we go to the next slide, what we will see is that two key questions often come up. Is tourism the agent of change when it comes to communities? And is it the victim of change, or is it both? And what is included in the tourism system? And what is excluded and why? And this is a very important aspect of community-based tourism. So the approach I've taken is to draw on my own work and to explain what I mean by community-based tourism. And these are a couple of books that I published with Professor Alan Liu from Arizona on this idea of tourism resilience and sustainability to social, political, and economic change, as well as to environmental change. And the next few slides will separate the type of change I'm talking about. And very often when we talk about social and economic change, what we are talking about is the twin issues of uncertainty and resilience that are central to tourism. And we see it now with the pandemic, right? The social, political, and economic conditions that can either be a hindrance or a help. And we see that tourism is a vital cog in the local economy. And often the overriding ability is to adapt and deal with change that comes from inside and outside. Okay, the next slide, please. And very often, local communities, when we talk about community-based tourism, are often subject to what happens beyond the scope of their control. So a global scan of tourism emphasizes that tourism communities are subject to wider global developments and the course of building adaptive capacities is not only up to their local capacities, but also to what happens beyond them. So when we talk about resilience, there's only so much we can be resilient to that is within our control. For communities, resilience is a part of a process of building adaptive capacities. And community resilience is also a form of organization. Resilient communities are able to organize themselves. And so resilience and disturbance are two opposite aspects of a phenomenon. If we move to the next one, please. So while tourism is demonstrably effective in fostering economic development, it is less effective in managing the negative feedback. And often the negative feedback comes insofar as social, economic, and environmental change. So while the economy may be doing well on the one hand, the social and environmental sustainability of a destination may be in serious decline. And often we find that communities are having to balance these two things. Next, please. So if we look at environmental change, and we see it all across the Southeast Asian region, while environmental crises can be catastrophic in their outcomes, they can also present opportunities like the pandemic we see before us now, where as long as innovation pays attention to the feedback loops, in other words, as long as innovation attends to the things that are quite apparent, we might possibly result in more effective cooperation and better outcomes. However, it's contingent upon policies, and it's contingent upon what I say there, the tragedy of the commons. You know, the commons is what is an asset for the entire community and not just one person's property. So where a tourism economy is built on environmental attractions, there are special concerns. And very often it's about the loss of access to a natural resource or loss of access to a tourist source area. And we find communities in Southeast Asia in particular dealing with these kinds of issues. And if we move to the next slide, please, we can see that for tourism-based communities, environmental change can have a tremendous impact. We hear about climate change. We hear about global warming. And a community's ability to respond and survive is essential. In some of the work I do in the Pacific Islands, we see that many of the low-lying islands in the Pacific Ocean are facing environmental change that is immensely challenging, that leads to drastically transformed local context. So where the changes are irreversible, and sometimes where the capacity to be resilient and adapt is beyond their means. So what happens then? So if we move to the next slide. So often environmental change is underscored by disaster hazards, and the greater frequency of these hazards is a reality for most communities that rely on tourism. Often, although not always, the more experienced communities are dealing with disaster, the greater their resilience. So if we move to the next slide, what we see then is that unless there is robust social capital within communities, in other words, unless the community is cohesive, unless there's collaboration between the community, the industry and institutions, and unless there are strong human social networks, resilience is very difficult. And the question as to how tourism communities can respond to change often remains local, given that whatever the repercussions are, they are often the first people to respond to their own changing circumstances, right? So, that then takes us to this idea that if tourism communities are to build adaptive capacities, both bottom up and top down, there needs to be a system approach to this. Governments need to avoid short-termism and instead build frameworks that are the essence of a common future. And for those of you who are into sustainable development, the Brundtland Report was the foundation of sustainable development, where it talks about intergenerational equity. In other words, is what we're doing today going to have a negative impact for the next generation? So in saying that, some of the other work we've been doing looks at two different phenomena: over-tourism on the one hand, and the incidence of modern slavery in the global tourism supply chain. I won't talk about the second, but I'll talk about the first more, because when we talk about over-tourism, typically many scholars and many commentators see it as a question of management. But in the research we're doing, it's more than management, because as we know, many communities can have a very well-run local government, can have a very well-run local community cooperative, but very often, if the community themselves aren't mobilized, that becomes a very difficult thing. So Over-tourism is a topic that came up obviously before the pandemic. And what we see now is the reverse, under-tourism, right? So if we can go to the next slide, one of the things when we define over-tourism, really what we're talking about are the communities, not so much the industry as such. So we describe over-tourism as the excessive growth of visitors leading to overcrowding in areas. We see this in Southeast Asia, Boracay, in Indonesia, at the Komodo Island, and so on, where residents suffer the consequences of temporary and seasonal tourism peaks, and it changes their lifestyles permanently, and denying them access to amenities and affecting their well-being. So one of the points we make when it comes to communities and over-tourism is that it should not only be associated with the volume of tourists, but also with the way local resources are exploited. So it is often associated also with the rising discontent between communities and tourists, right? Because very often, thank you, communities become aggrieved when they feel like they have no control over the tourism that's happening. So if we could skip forward to the next slide, please. And very often, and the next one, that's right, the interplay between community and the tourism system is of critical concern. How do we deal with these things? This raises many questions that we can't possibly answer in one short presentation. So if we can move forward again, please. So often this bind or this problem is between balancing the economic, the social, and the cultural and environmental. Also, in Southeast Asia in particular, is the use of traditional culture in tourism. Very often we see this as a challenge, right? Because many purveyors of traditional culture want to see it maintain its authenticity, maintain its realness, right? But often tourism works to change that. So when it comes to community resilience, how do we maintain the culture as well as develop it is a key issue. Next, please. I've already gone over some of these things, but essentially when it comes to community-based tourism, the main aim for many practitioners is how can we have the community be the main beneficiaries as well as maintain control over the production of tourism within their own communities. Next, please. And lastly, if we can move forward, recently we've been involved in a project about what will global tourism look like after COVID-19. Of course, we are just drawing on information that we know, and clearly it's very difficult to predict what will happen from here. So if we move forward, one of the things we're talking about in the slide, please, next slide. One of the things we're talking about is how can community-based tourism help the humans within communities flourish? This is a key question that we must ask at this point in time, rather than how can we recover tourism without considering these things. So we can move forward. And human flourishing is really responding to a few questions. You know, what should the community's place be in all of this? What should the shift in values be? And how can this influence the demand side of tourism? Thank you. We're coming up to the last slide, I think. We can skip this slide. You will all have these slides given to you as well. So in conclusion, when we're talking about community-based tourism, we're talking about what is a desirable kind of tourism that will benefit communities and make sure that their priorities are elevated. And the last question is, will we have the capacity and willingness to make the changes necessary anyway in a post-COVID-19 environment? Thank you, that's all. Thank you. We can go to the final slide.
It's very crucial to development about environmental change and other impacts such as over-tourism that mentioned by Prof. Joseph. All right, next, our speaker, Ms. Jemina from Canada, is going to share with us on the topic Empowering Tourism Recovery Through an Ecological Lens. Over to you, Ms. Jemina.
Thank you, Ida. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, first and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to say I'm honored to be here to speak amongst such a distinguished group of people on the concept of ecology tourism, also known as ecotourism. I come humbly before you today as the CEO and recent founder of the Ecotourism Foundation of Canada. And the concept of ecotourism is very new to Canada. I think it's important to acknowledge that it's very advanced in Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific regions, as well as many other parts of the world. And today I come to you hopefully able to spark some new concepts, as well as coming here to learn, as Canada is a very strong representation and holds a very strong responsibility as the second largest landmass in the world. So why ecotourism? We can go to the next slide. In order to talk about why ecotourism, I'd first like to start with my why in tourism and how it has evolved. In 2020, I'm very proud to mark my 16th professional year in the industry, spanning roles in tourism, hospitality management, sales, account management, marketing and communications, leadership. But travel has been a deep aspect of my life far before that. As a Canadian Taiwanese citizen, I have been introduced to the world's, the beautiful ecological landscape of the Pacific Northwest in Canada, swimming in lakes, hiking, being able to experience the beautiful natural world in the Pacific Northwest, and also in the jungles of Taiwan, where I would walk the trail jungles and see hummingbirds the size of bees and bees the size of hummingbirds, and spiders the size of an adult hand dropping from the trees before my eyes. I also have a partner of 12 years in life and the co-founder of the Ecotourism Foundation of Canada, who comes from Turkish descent. So between us, we have 6 different countries represented with our immediate family. And if it wasn't for travel, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet. We also wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to share this picture that you see, where we were able to bring our families together representing France, Turkey, Taiwan, China, all together under one roof for Chinese New Year 5 years ago. So when I first started my career in tourism, the quote that's listed there from Mark Twain has been a driving factor in my passion for the industry. I was so delighted back in the days of 2004 when I found an industry that valued opening minds and experiences and cultural diversity. And so this has been a continued aspect of all of my roles within tourism. If we move to the next slide, I'll share that that has changed in the last several years from a quote standpoint. So in 2018, there was a report released by the UNWTO that tourism contributes about 8% of CO2 to the world. And there was also a report released by the International Panel on Climate Change that stated we had 12 years to reverse the effects of climate change so that we wouldn't see warming above 2 degrees Celsius. I was absolutely alarmed to read this data. And meanwhile, I was managing a global pilot team for Expedia Group that managed a long tail product across North America. And within just 2.5 years, I saw this portfolio grow 350%. What that signified to me is that perhaps my role in tourism is no longer about just inspiring people to travel, but it's to inspire people to travel with purpose. And so it led me to think about Mark Twain's quote. And today I have a new quote that drives my passion and my direction within tourism, that travel can be a vessel for world peace. In order to achieve this, we must first reconcile our actions with the planet to have a world to explore. And it's time for every person to bring vegetation to the corners of our earth that we visit in our lifetime. If we move to the next slide. I became a member and subscribed to the International Ecotourism Society in 2014. So my desire to bridge tourism and ecology is not new. It just took me 6 to 7 years to grasp the true concept of ecotourism and understand how I might play a role within that. So in the last 6 years of following the sustainable tourism conversation, I found that the International Ecotourism Society was the first society to bring credible research and insight to the controversial concepts of climate change, conservation, and tourism. As the UNWTO now states that sustainable tourism is the new norm, I come back again to this definition to remind myself of what is sustainable and what is our true intent to find solutions that bring conservation, community, and interpretation to the forefront. So with this definition, I think it's valuable to unpack the meanings and share with you my understandings of the three fundamentals of ecotourism. For the sake of time, I won't read each of these definitions out. In fact, what I'd like to leave you with is a consideration as to what we're doing to ensure that today's traveler is thinking at an ecological level every time they make a purchasing choice for a rural area. We know that the savvy traveler is shopping at least 6 months in advance, and the trip thought often happens much further out, 1 to 2 years. From my OTA days, I also know that the shopping process, when the shopping process begins, the traveler is looking at up to 160 different search hits before converting. So it's imperative throughout this journey that there is ample united messaging, whether it's on the direct website, the destination marketing organization material, the OTA campaign, that there is a tourism ready strategy and they are promoting a sustainable experience. So when looking at the OTA world, we know that Expedia Group and Booking.com combined are approximately about 70% of global travel transactions. Airbnb, from a North American standpoint, is known to be about 18 to 20% of inventory alone as well. So these organizations have launched several campaigns in the last year and a half, starting with Airbnb driving a DNA travel campaign, inspiring travelers to travel along their heritage lines. Expedia Group, in partnership with UNESCO, highlighting UNESCO sites and locations. Booking.com, in conjunction with TripAdvisor, as well as Visa, Skyscanner, and many more, to create the think tank Travelist to build a sustainable future. And with COVID-19, Expedia Group has also launched a $275 million relief and recovery fund that's going directly back into these destinations and locations that are ready for promotion. One of the most unique aspects I learned about that as well, after having recently left, is that $25 million of that is credited towards advertising through Expedia Media Solutions arm, which is not getting put into destinations based on destination marketing organizations partnerships or even local hotel chains or larger hotel chain partnerships with Expedia. This is driven by traveler data demands. So when the system identifies that a destination is ready, it's going to put the money back into those destinations that are showing inventory and ability for booking. From my experience working with rural and tertiary secondary markets across North America, one thing that I have learned is that these locations and operators often aren't aware of the importance of having bookable inventory on these different paths. And I think one takeaway for everyone here on this call as leaders of the industry is to help educate, inform, and help these destinations, help rural and more eco-driven locations understand how they can get a voice within a very, very competitive marketplace. As we know, eco-traveler or not, today's traveler is digital. And these organizations, while they've grown so exponentially right before our eyes in the last 20 and 30 years, they are driven by that same Mark Twain quote that has driven the entire industry for over 100 years. Next slide. So with the emphasis of sustainable tourism today, I also wanted to address where I see ecotourism sits within the mix. Sustainable tourism has grown strong segments of travelers, and working with OTAs, academia, and DMO to better define these segments is an incredible opportunity right at our fingertips. For example, as Dr. Ann was telling us about the importance and the depth of wellness tourism, this industry alone is, according to the Global Wellness Institute, a $639 billion industry. So looking at these segments through the ecological lens has the opportunity to empower the traveler to move as part of the natural system. With an effective interpretive communication strategy, by the time the wellness travel, the digitally savvy, or the adventure traveler arrives to their destination, they consider themselves as part of the ecosystem and understand the conservation needs, the communities that they are visiting, and the impact of their adventure or their natural experience. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so what does global responsibility mean for us today? Canada holds 1/4 of the world's wetlands, 9% of the world's forests, and more freshwater lake than the whole world combined. The concept of ecotourism, when looking at, for example, forest, is not about creating new hiking trails. The forests in Canada at this level of space have the impact of being able to either sink or be a source to the carbon emissions. And according to various studies, between 1990 and 2010, Canada's managed forest area was an overall sink in 11 out of 21 years. That means that during that period, 10 years, those forests were a source to CO2. So what the studies have also shown is that forests with avid planting began to sink CO2, at least in the immediate area. And when I look at this, I see this as to lend from Dr. Ann Dale and Jeremy Guth of a podcast provided by Royal Roads University, that this is not only a problem of Canadians, but it is a problem of the world. And this is what one of my goals is part of the Ecotourism Foundation of Canada, to have a vessel to create more opportunity, awareness, and programs to complement initiatives that are happening today. Next slide. So in light of COVID-19, we've seen that natural disasters have the power to put up to 120 million tourism jobs at risk, create international lockdown, and endanger the breeding grounds of the most ecologically delicate corners of our planet. In the last 2 years alone, we've seen catastrophic fires in the Amazon, Australia, Canada, and the USA, just to mention a few, bringing the climate change data alive before our eyes. And having managed those secondary and tertiary markets directly myself that I had mentioned before, I saw these fires impact my markets firsthand, evacuating entire cities for upwards of 6 months. Next slide. So what is the solution, or what is a solution? I believe that we can leverage tourism as a voice for responsible domestic, regional, and international human movement and migration by uniting conservation efforts with tourism, marketing, and economy. And this means starting in our own backyard, identifying the key endangered species and empowering local people to get involved and do what tourism does well, which is have fun with it. Next slide. So when looking at the partnerships and the SDGs, I won't go into these in details, but I will point out that the strategies for the Ecotourism Foundation are not here to recreate the wheel. You can see the tourism for SDGs in alignment with the Canada's application of the Sustainable Development Goals. As a starting point, I filtered that down to the voluntary actions and the key goals that are aligned with that to create projects that we can unite as a domestic and an international network to work together to achieve. Next slide. And last, I will conclude with my acknowledgements and thanks. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the invitation of Dr. Cheer. And thank you so much for having me with the honor of standing alongside with UCSI University and being on the editorial review board for the newly founding Responsible Tourism Management Journal. The International Ecotourism Society as well has been a pivotal role in the research and the awareness around what we can do for Canada as a ecotourism foundation. Sri Lanka Ecotourism Foundation has also acted as a guide, being again another destination that is very mature within these practices to bring these practices to a nation that has such a large landmass. And Nature Canada, Women for Nature charity in Canada, also being a collective group of various represented professionals who put the climate at the forefront of all industries. And then lastly, Royal Roads University, who's been providing an extensive amount of research as well to get this off the ground. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Jamina, for your encouraging sharing on your passions and as well your active role in ecotourism society. And not to forget as well the sharing on the Canada responsibility as an ecological superpower and as well embarking SDG principle in it. Thank you.
Wonderful. And as I was at time, we'll leave those other ones for just the mail out.
Yeah. All right, next, let us move on to our fifth speakers, Prof. Dr. Stanislav Ivanov from Bulgaria, to deliver his topic on smart tourism, the role of service robots. Over to you, Prof.
Hello, good morning. It is a
Morning.
pleasure to participate in this webinar. I will talk about smart tourism and the role of service robots. My name is Stanislav Ivanov. I'm a professor and vice rector research at Varna University of Management. Also, I'm a CEO of a consulting company, Zangador. And I also serve as editor-in-chief of the European Journal of Tourism Research and Robonomics, the Journal of the Automated Economy, and coordinating editor for AI and Robotics for the International Journal of Hospitality Management. Please do consider submitting your best papers to these journals. Last year, this book was published, Robots, Artificial Intelligence and Service Automation in Travel, Tourism and Hospitality. If you want to learn more about the topic, this book may help you, and to see the reaction of people and robots when they see the book. Next. What is smart tourism? Smart tourism, this is tourism supported by integrated efforts at the destination to collect and aggregate harness data derived from physical infrastructure, social connections, government organizational sources, and human bodies' minds, in combination with use of advanced technologies to transform data into on-site experiences and business value propositions with a clear focus on efficiency, sustainability, and experience enrichment. Fantastic definition, which is very long, but here are the key words in it. We talk about integrated efforts at the destination, so it's not only one company. We talk about data, the use of advanced technology to create experiences and value propositions, and with a focus on efficiency, sustainability, and experience enrichment for tourists. So which are the key features of smart tourism? We talk about it is data-driven. It means data, this is the new oil. When we talk about data, we talk not only about big data, but also small data. So not only about a lot of information about customers, about many customers, but also information about few customers. Technology mediated creation. We talk about connectivity of technologies, interoperability, personalization of data and decisions, real-time nowness, but also something that is very important. This is decision-making by autonomous agents. So sometimes the decisions are not taken by humans, but are taken by artificial intelligence. So what technologies serve smart tourism? We talk about mobile applications, beacons, Internet of Things, blockchain technologies, for example, for smart contracts, wearable implantable technologies, virtual reality, but also artificial intelligence and robotics. This is a vast area of technologies, and I will focus only on robots in tourism and hospitality. So they are applied in hotels for room service as concierge. Next. Also, we have a Henna Hotel, which is an automated hotel in Japan. I'm sure that you have all heard about it. But a year and a half ago, it turned off half of its robots, and these are screenshots of some of the articles published online on this. Also, robots can be used in restaurants for serving food as hosts, also for telepresence. So instead of traveling to a destination, you can connect to a robot avatar. Also in bars for serving drinks. Next. Also in museums and art galleries for provision of information as curators. So this is my personal slogan, in robots we trust. So often people ask me, why robots? And this is the reason. This is the most important number in the history of the universe. It's not the price of oil. It's not even the number of casualties in COVID-19. It is the number of children per woman, because demography is driving automation. And as we can see, since 1967, the number of children per woman in the world is plummeting significantly. We need something like 2.1 kids per woman on average in order to keep the population stable. And but what happens with what are the numbers in the world? So we see South Korea, Italy, Portugal, Japan, Bulgaria, and countries from the EU, China, OECD, the US. In all these countries, the number of children is below the replacement rate. While in other countries like Malaysia, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, the number of children is on the edge or it's above the replacement rate. So what happens is that in parts of the world, we have the number of children born is 25, 30% less than necessary for keeping population. So what's the solution from a policy perspective? Practically, we have three solutions: produce people, the normal biological process; import people, this is through immigration; or substitute people. Each of these has its own political repercussions, but automation is the politically correct solution. And next, please. So in my research, what I have shown is that automation compensates for the unborn children. So what are the benefits of using service robots? Why should we use them? Because they work 24/7, they implement various tasks, unlike humans, and they can expand the scope of these tasks through software and hardware upgrades. They can provide constant and improving quality of their work. They can work correctly and in a timely manner. They can do routine work repeatedly, and they don't complain on this. Also, they don't get ill. They don't go on strike, spread rumors, and other things which humans we love to do. Next. And this is what Chef Palpatine from Star Wars would have said if there were strikes there, that every strike of human employees is a pathway towards their substitution by automation technologies. And also, we have huge labor cost savings because robots can work 24/7. They can stimulate sales. We can have easier scheduling and planning of operations, and also improved environmental sustainability of operations. This referring to the previous speaker. And next. Also, the robots, they lead to increased role of the customer in the service delivery process, and consumers are transformed into prosumers. They also save employees time, and they can concentrate on more revenue generating activities. They enhance employees, and they can solve legal problems with hiring and firing employees, especially seasonal ones. Also, they can enhance the perceived service quality. Next. And they can create positive word of mouth regarding the company. However, robots also have a dark side, and they should be, and there are many reasons why they should be avoided. The first and most important, this is the huge financial costs for acquisition, installation, maintenance, insurance, etc. But because robots, they cost a lot. Also, we have a potential vendor lock-in effect when we use robots. This means that we may get stuck in a particular technology and with particular supplier, and it would be difficult to switch between suppliers. And leasing technology as a service, robot as a service, is one way we can offset these high financial costs. Also, robots, they lack creativity. Next. Also, they decrease the flexibility of the service delivery system. A robot can never be as flexible as a human, at least for the next decades, as I see. Also, they will not be anytime soon completely independent of human supervision. They lack personal approach. Also, there are privacy and security concerns regarding data leak, for example. And also, the company may suffer negative publicity. Also, they can be perceived as a threat by human employees for their job positions, and they may face resistance by customers and society. Next. Also, they can lead to the disappearance of whole industries with significant business and social implications. Next. And also they do not go to spa centers. So we may have robots, but because we don't pay them salaries, they don't consume and they don't go to spa centers, and we will not use the wonderful spa facilities in Thailand as we saw. And striking the right balance, we need to consider the company's characteristics and it's the corporate culture, costs, relative labor and robot productivity, the technological complexity, customers' readiness and willingness to be served by robots, because if they resist, it will be very difficult for companies to use robots, the cultural characteristics of both customers and service providers, and also the safety characteristics of robots. Next. And what we can say is that in the future, we may have a division of companies between high-tech and high-touch. And of course, but I'm pretty sure that it will be more than 50 shades of gray in between. High-tech, they will have low prices using automation, and high-touch companies, they will use humans. So what about responsible robotization? We need to make, before introducing robots, we need to make a thorough cost-benefit analysis and to consider the financial and non-financial costs and benefits that were outlined previously. Next. Also, we need to consider the substitution and the enhancement of employees. We always have simultaneously substitution and enhancement when we introduce automation and robotics within a company. Some tasks will be eliminated, some jobs will be eliminated. However, new tasks will be created and new job positions as well. And also, robotization and automation, they need to be used for repetitive, dirty, dull, and dangerous tasks in order to create decent work environment. Next. And also, robots can be used for disinfection, as we already saw through during this COVID-19 pandemic. Next, they can be used for physical distancing, for delivering food, for example, but also for social connectedness, in order to connect people. So, finally, what I can say is that we need to use robots wisely, responsibly, effectively, and efficiently, because we may have fantastic robots, but if you do not use them properly, then there will be no use of them. So thank you very much. Some references and further reading, and I'm ready to answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much. May the robotic force be with you.
Thank you, Frost. And
12 minutes sharp.
Indeed, yeah, smart tourism helps to support hospitality industry in many ways, such as in hotels, restaurants, meetings, museums, and many more. Robots do not go to spa center, yeah, Prostan. Most importantly, the right balance is the key in responsible robotization. Okay, let's just call upon our last speaker for today, Madam Shazid, Datuk Haji Saleh Askor from Malaysia, to deliver her topic on responsible tourism, its impact, and our efforts. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Ida, and thank you so much for the organizer to invite me to be part and parcel. It was such a wonderful, I listened to all the speakers. I really enjoyed every one of you all speaking on your topic. And at the end of the day, you know, as far as I can see, you know, whether it's event tourism, leisure tourism, community-based tourism, ecology tourism, or smart tourism, what it boils down to at the end also is responsible tourism. You know, so it is very important that responsible tourism plays a very important part. But before I go into my topic of responsible tourism, its impact and our efforts in Sarawak, I like to give you a glimpse of what Sarawak has to offer. And I hope you can put this in your bucket list, you know, and do come to Sarawak, you know, because it's a state, is a place that you'll never regret coming. So let's give you 60 seconds of what Sarawak has to offer. Well, I hope that 60 seconds give you a little bit of a spirit for you to make a booking to Sarawak when the doors are open and the borders are open for you to travel. You know, I think all of us have been locked down for quite a fair bit, you know, itching to go out and do something, right? But I think today I'm going to talk to you about responsible tourism. With COVID-19, I want to say, and how can we be more responsible? Yeah, I'm going to refer to you this two reference from World Summit Sustainable Development, talking about what's the definition of responsible tourism is. 18 years ago, it is already said that responsible tourism is about making better places for people to live and better places for people to visit. Very simple from the World Summit on Sustainable Development in 2002. But what is sustainable tourism? Yeah, according to UNWTO, sustainable tourism is defined by the United Nations World Tourism Organization as tourism that takes full account of its current, future economic, social, and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, the environment, and host communities. If you look into that, it is very much about the future generations that we're looking into. Can you just hold on to the slide, yeah? So if you look at the two definitions just now, I would like to say that in a nutshell, it is responsible tourism is a form of tourism that consume and looks into a more responsible way or a behavior or even a mindset, you know, where we should minimize the negative social, economic, and environmental impact. The key word here is responsible way, behavior, or mindset. So no matter what niche market you are in, whether it's CBT, whether it's leisure tourism or whatever, at the end of the day, the outcome that we want is about responsible actions and responsible behavior. So next, please. So the overview, next, please. So what is the impact of responsible tourism on nation and hosts with that? So I had put it and sum it up as the 3 E's effect, yeah? And to me, the 3 effects are very simple, and I think all of us in this room and the viewers would also have read it somewhere. Next, please. Next slide. Can we have the next slide, please? Is there an issue with the slide? Okay, anyway, what I'm going to say, the slide next, the next slide is actually about showing to you the 3 E's are very much about empowerment of communities, economic viability, and environmental protection. Okay, but it's 3 E's makes up into that responsible tourism, because as you know, and I'm quite sure you're agreeable to this, that tourism is about inclusivity, and you know, and it is about the inclusivity of all the stakeholders, may come from government policymakers. I think that's very important, because it is the government that makes and drives things to make sure, you know, it follows through. Then you have the local community. The local community plays a role and they are beneficiaries of it. The industry players plays a role in making sure there's a balance of economy and there's a balance of course, the beneficiaries to the communities. And of course, the NGOs too. So for me, it is therefore very important that to get that successful 3 E's effect, yeah, that whether it's empowerment of communities, economic viability, or environment protection, it requires a very much integrated approach involving all sectors. If you go into things very silo, and it may not be very effective, because it takes everybody to be involved and be responsible to do their part to ensure the success and of course the sustainability of it. Okay, so the efforts in responsible tourism on our part, COVID-19, what do we do? Yeah, so with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Sarawak Tourism Board has gone extra mile. We have tried to ensure that we have enhanced guest experience or visitors experience with a greener note in our eco-friendly festivals. We started very small since 2015. However, it has grown and with full commitment from 2019 onwards. And we aim to increase that environmentally sustainability, you know, not only to preserve the culture and art during this festival ground, but to ensure we educate and make sure we protect the environment. Next, please. So basically, during this COVID period, COVID-19, what we do in terms of empower local communities through e-learning. As you know, with the restriction of movements and all that, and digital became the most friendliest, platform. And hence with e-learning, we will be using that platform to educate our communities about responsible tourism, make them know how important responsible tourism is all about, what responsible tourism and how they can play a role. So it is, we are empowering the communities to make them understand that it is their role and it is their job, it is their duties, and not to just depend on just the government. The government sets the policies and give the finance to other structures and all, but it is the community's mindset, the community's behavior that will be able to sustain the responsible tourism way and journey. The other way to make it very economically viable, we also have identified 10 longhouse or homestays where we educate this local community on waste management, on composting, and even on soap making. Why? Because that in itself, as you know, homestay is one of the way through CBT they will benefit through income and getting income from there, and creating their own soap will obviously help them in terms of some of the expenses and all. And it will be part and parcel of the guest experiential, experience while they're staying in the longhouses or in the homestays. Of course, the one that I want to elaborate more will be our rainforest. Rainforest World Music Festival our greening initiative, and during the Borneo Jazz Festival, we took these two iconic events of Sarawak. Rainforest World Music Festival has been around for 23 years. It would have been celebrating its 23rd year this year if it's not for COVID-19. But this is a platform that actually drives in about 23,000 over festival goers. And we felt that this is the place and this is a platform that we could let people know what responsible tourism is all about. Could we go next, please? Next slide, please. It is nice to know that when we do this event and we put responsible tourism as a platform in our festival event, iconic event, even the state of the head responded to it and believes in it, and therefore we are so aligned in the state government's vision and all, and therefore it becomes a commitment and it has become an aspiration statement for the state to ensure about responsible tourism as part and parcel of our journey to develop tourism. Next, please. So in the event, what exactly do we do? Yeah, from the onset of this event, okay, we have planned it in such a manner that we are going to use an biodegradable tableware. We will not allow food and beverage vendors, for example, to use styrofoam items. They are to use biodegradable tableware so that we will educate them, you know, and make it part and parcel of a daily vendor practice. We also had provided and encouraged no usage of plastic bottles. We put every part of the festival ground with water dispensers, and festival goers are to come in with their own bottle that is recyclable. We allow them to have free water, and that is very encouraging, because I would like to show you the result out of that. In addition to that, we also had educate the festival goers about organic waste and food scraps, where we also made and worked through social enterprise. And this social enterprise collected and channeled all the leftover food into compost bins. And this organic waste then are made into bioprotein or to farmers for composting. Next, please. So what happened? That 3 days festivals turns out to be 56 tons of organic waste collected, 90 kg of recyclables, okay, which turns into 5 tons of insect protein and 11 tons of organic fertilizer, which benefits the farmers and all. Rather than it's just going to waste or go to the landfill and all that, it has been used, you know, in a manner that it has helped farmers. So these are things that we are educating our festival goers, we are educating our communities, working with social enterprise. And that's why I say that when it comes to responsible tourism, it is not just about one party, but it is a concerted effort where we put the policymakers, we put the NGOs, we put the local communities, and we put the industry players together and have that, what do you call this, have that thing going on, and hopefully it will change the younger generations in terms of making it part and parcel of their daily life. It's not going to take, I can tell you, and I will say it very clearly to everyone out there, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to take you a month to change people. It's not going to take you a year to change people. It takes years, and it has to start from the younger generation. Even it has to start from school at a level where people will teach the children how and the importance of all this recyclable and the reason why it is needed to be done. Okay, next, please. So we also make it interesting, our recycled bins. We had competitions so that the ordinary, normal beans are turned into beautiful, and it's a turnaround. You know, people had to, it's a head turner here. People actually was excited about it, actually took pictures with it, you know, and they threw and segregate their food waste and their recyclables. So it does take a little bit more effort to get attention to people. And we hope in Sarawak Tourism Board that we hope this will be expanded where the schools will then participate and it becomes part and parcel of a decorative part of tourism also. And this is one way that we hope that it makes it a dull and a boring thing to do, that it can be an interesting things to do when it comes to a normal bin to become a beautiful design bill. Next, please. We also had upcycle using, for example, the banners that was used, you know, and make it into tote bags. And it becomes very popular because it becomes gifts and souvenirs during the festival. We had volunteers, you know, working with us, looking into the waste management strategies and teaching people with regards to the composting side of it. We had these green heroes that we called during that time, where they will spread messages of recycling and food waste to all the public to create that awareness. So it is this kind of platform. We feel that iconic events that brings in international participants, international audience, and local audience together. This is the greatest platform to educate people. And believe it or not, it was well received. There was no complaint about in terms of the water, not using a single bottle, you know, plastic bottle. And, you know, people were appreciative of what we're doing. With COVID-19, you can actually see the difference of our river, the difference of our, you know, if you open your doors at times, you know, you can hear the birds chirping and all, because there's less pollution, there's cleaner river and all that. And what does that mean? It simply means if you don't throw rubbish everywhere and anywhere, and with your responsible behavior, mindset, and a way of life, things can be better for everybody. You know, may you be in CBT, leisure tourism, ecotourism, it all takes with one kind of behavior, being responsible towards the planet, towards the whole state, towards where you're staying. And we will make a cleaner place. Okay, so basically for Sarawak tourism, we believe that, you know, these are some of the things, but I would like, before I say anything, I would like to say that what are the things that the state embraces to do, yeah, in terms of responsible tourism. We look into energy efficient equipment, like investing into electric vehicles, like our buses. You know, the Sarawak state are now purchasing and buying and investing on electrical buses for tourists and for our people to go around, and it's complementary. We encourage sustainability by bringing reusable bottles filled with water, you know, in places and events, and you know, and to look into recyclable bins available in areas. We also look into what I would call encourage niche tourism rather than group tourism. Mass tourism are one that will hurt the industry, in a sense that, you know, like one of the speakers mentioned, it's about the number of people coming in, the carrying capacity and all. So we need to look into all this. Seriously, it's about commitment. Responsible tourism is a balance between economic balance as well as the other balance of, you know, the health, the well-being, and everything else. So we believe in Sarawak, we go into niche tourism. We believe that we should empower our communities. We believe that ecotourism is a way to go because we have abundance of ecotourism products that you can enjoy when you're here. So with that, I do hope you do come to Sarawak. You do come and visit us because it's a place that you should not miss. I guarantee you, as a CEO of Sarawak Tourism Board, I like to welcome you all to Sarawak. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, Madam Shazet. Certainly, everyone should involve and responsible as we can see the huge impact of responsible tourism on nations and host country in 3E's effect as mentioned by Madam Shazet just now. And thank you as well for the great examples given by Madam Shazet on Rainforest World Music Festival, Greening Initiative, and as well BGM sustainable activities. Thank you very much. Okay, we have done with all the 6 speakers presenting their thoughts and their topics. Now we move into the next sessions of the webinar, which is the Q&A sessions. We have received many interesting questions. However, due to time constraint, we can only select a few. Okay, speaker, are you ready? All right, can you see me now? All right, so this question is addressed to Prof. N and Prof. Joseph, yeah, to Prof. N and Prof. Joseph on wellness and community-based tourism. COVID-19 affect employment of every industry, but in tourism too much, lead to a lead to a human character affect badly in the current circumstances, and majority left the tourism operating organization for earning from other sources for the survival of their families. So the question is, how we can utilize them in the current and after the current circumstance, especially in responsibility especially in responsibility and sustainability and value creation scenario. Such a long questions. Can you get the question, Prof. N and Prof. Joseph?
Yeah, I think I let Professor Joseph answer first, if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, let me provide a short answer to a long question then.
Yeah.
So what I gathered from the question was about the employment impacts and what the implications are as a result of COVID-19. Now, I guess as people focused on tourism, we tend to think that tourism, that the world revolves around tourism, but really tourism relies on the broader economy recovering. Unless the broader economy recovers, then tourism probably has very little chance of recovering. But in relation to employment, one of the things that we talk about in the work we do is how an over-reliance or dependence on tourism can create a great deal of vulnerability for communities, which is why livelihoods diversification is always critical when it comes to community-based tourism. If 100% of your income comes from tourism, then you find yourself potentially in a very tricky place. So the short answer is livelihoods diversification as a strategy for communities is essential. Over to you, Anne.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a very, very good question. And I think many people have the same question like that in mind. And even though I am in Thailand now, I have a lot of stakeholders where my students, some of them work in the airline industry, and some of them own the hotel, especially in Phuket. Some of them have several hotels, several business. It's all about tourism. But may I give an answer for my research project? One of my study, which is I'm doing with my PhD student, he's doing about experience design for the wellness tourists. In terms of the perspective of wellness, of course, that we are working in the industry, cannot avoid to interact with human, and the people are now, back in the mind that maybe you have some unsafe or something like that. But one of my study suggests that, I give you example. Now is people who are, I give one group of the people first, 50 aging group who are willing to spend money, willing to go out, but because during the COVID-19, the country are closed. So these people, they have a lot of money, they want to go out, but they can't. So now in Thailand, I give you the case study in Thailand. Now they're turning themselves, traveling around Thailand, but they don't need the tour guide. They don't need the people who take them. However, they need you to create the activities. For example, this study turned out that they like to be in the local community. They like to be in learning something new. So, if you're a tour guide, you said you lose a job, you don't have foreigner, you can't interact with people, or the people who do a massage or do the spa at the moment, leave massage, the spa on the A side, we need that, but we still have to deal with that situation. But now what can we do? Create new activities. For example, my study said that we like to go between 3 days to 7 days to traveling around Thailand. We have money because usually rich people, they go out, they don't travel in Thailand. I'm sure in other countries may be the same. Going out and create some activities for these people. So you may be used to go to interact with them, but you have a program. I give you one example. Is my sample said, we like to go from 3 to 7 days. What can we do if we go to north of Thailand? Or if we go to south Thailand, we cannot join the spa, but what can we do in our activities? I would say, for example, you maybe teach them yoga, and then you have keep them distancing. I think this one I'm talking in terms of the wellness tourists. And you maybe organize cycling, you have the resources, you have the mountain, you have the national park, you maybe create a short distance, or maybe you do some like adventure tourism. And this kind of thing that is all sorts of activity that you need to turn yourself on. And I'm sure that those who are working as a tour guide, or those who are working who interact with the industry, will have chipped themselves and thinking about how can we do that. And this create new activities for the group. I'm not talking about only active aging group, but you may be also talking about the other group, for example, like retirement people, or you're talking about millennials. I think that this is my answer. I hope that is helped. Thank you.
All right, thank you to Prof. Anne and Prof. Joseph for your response. Due to time constraint, we have to end our Q&A sessions. All right, so, but don't worry, we still have one more session here. All right, so finally, I would like to invite our Associate Professor, Dr. Hiram Ting, to introduce an upcoming new journal of the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism Management, the Journal of Responsible Tourism Management. Over to you, Dr. Hiram.
Thank you so much, Ida. Now, I must say, I'm very mesmerized by the speeches by all the speakers. I told them before the seminar that it has been a great injustice to all of them because they could have said a lot more than just 12 minutes. But nevertheless, we appreciate their speeches, their presentation. It is really inspiring, and we hope that all the participants on the Zoom or on Facebook are inspired as well to contribute ourselves to realizing tourism and hospitality in a more sustainable and responsible manner. Now, very quickly, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the new journal. The journal is called the Journal of Responsible Tourism Management. It is a journal published by UCSI University, Sarawak Campus, and Sarawak Research Society. The website will be launched very soon. The website should be ready by the end of the month. And you should be able to see all this information, journal aims, journal scope, journal policy, what are the papers, the topics that we are looking at. Like what Madam Shazet has said earlier, this is something that we are really passionate about. Something to bring together different stakeholders, to converge various ideas, expertise, resources, to realize responsible tourism in a more effective manner. We believe it is an initiative, a platform to bring together various resources, especially those from the academia and those in the industry. So what makes this journal different from other journals is that the editorial board members are from both the academia and the industry. All right, these are the editorial board members. These are the advisory board members. They are from different places of the world. The speakers today, they are in the board. They are the board members, and there are many editorial review board members from different places of the world. Now, what I would like to highlight is that while many of them are from academia, there is a good number of them from the industry. They are practitioners. So what makes this journal distinctive is that every paper submitted to this journal, if it is not just rejected, it will go through peer review, blind review by both academics and practitioners. At the end of the day, what we hope to achieve is not only about the reputation, recognition of the journal in the academic world, but also its relevance to the real world, where knowledge can be translated into actual action to benefit the local community. So we hope that you will consider this journal as your publication outlet. We take this opportunity to introduce this journal to you, and it will be launched in early August. We have a Facebook page, Responsible Tourism Management. Do visit us and get the updates from us. And as I said, the website should be ready by the end of this month or early August. So again, we hope no matter you are the academics, students, or practitioners, do consider this journal as your publication outlet to disseminate knowledge and to make a real impact on the society. With that, thank you. Over to you, Ida.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. We are so thankful for the presentation from all the speakers. Thank you, speakers. We have learned so much from various aspects of tourism, and all this touching on our seminar topic today.
tourism recovery and development, responsibility, sustainability, and value creation. Hope it can give us better insight on how we can work together to restart our tourism. Thank you to all the participants in Zoom with us and those watching us live in Facebook. This event will be not possible without your support. We hope you find the webinar useful to you no matter who and where you are. Thank you to our partner, Sarawak Tourism Board, RCE Kuching, University Technology Mara, Sabah Branch, Sarawak Research Society, Emerald Publishing in East Asia, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, and Ming Chuan University, Taiwan. We are also thankful to those who have made donations to RCE Kuching on its initiative to implement SDG for the local community in education for sustainable development with the local community in Kuching. Please be informed the seminar videos and the slide will be made available within 2 days, 2 days after the event. Please refer to the chat room in Zoom and also comments on Facebook for details. E-certificate will also send only to registered participants through your emails in a week's time. Once again, I'm Ida Nainko, and it has been my privilege to be your moderator today. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Stay safe, everyone.